It's fine. Oh, thanks, Jamie. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'll just start sharing my screen. So, as Jamie said, the presentation today we'll be talking about reclaiming your personal brand online. Jamie, can you see that? Okay, get thumbs up. Cool. So, perfect. So we'll be covering reclaiming your brand online, what it means to have a personal brand, why it's important, and a few practical tips for social media in general, some tools you can use, and some simple do's and some don'ts. So before we get started, a brief introduction from Jamie. My name's Molly. I was released from prison in 2015 and I went on to study sport at Cardiff Met as I intended to before. And I've worked in social media throughout my degree, and since then I've been employed as a digital marketing officer and a social media manager. So I have some credentials, I guess. Right. So what is your personal brand and how is it different from personal branding? So your personal brand is about basically how others perceive you. So there's a nice long-winded quote that basically says that it's about how others perceive what you're doing and their impression of you based on your expertise and experience. And your personal branding is what you do to control that narrative. So what do you put out there to say, no, this is who I am, and these are my expertise, this I am credible, and how you differentiate yourself from other people. So I think some good examples of these that I think we'll all know about people like huge examples like Oprah, for example, Richard Branson, and the man himself, Jamie Grundy. I think we all know he has a fantastic personal brand. We all know what Jamie's about and what he supports, and because he's fantastic at utilizing social media as a tool for his own personal brand. So when thinking about your personal brand, here are a few questions. A good starting point for you, a bit of a framework. It's absolutely not limited to these points, but if you start thinking about what your values are, what your strengths lie in, how your story is unique, and who your story could benefit, I think that's a really good starting point to develop your personal brand. You want to be sharing your values and your strengths online as much as possible to get people learn about you. My strengths and my values lie in things like feminism, equal rights. I also really value my family, grassroots sport, and social media. All these things are things that tie into your complex personal brand. There you go. So you've got your why, which are your values, your what, which are your strengths and your behaviors, and how, which are the things that make your story unique. And all of those things will come together to create your personal brand. So why is it important to have a personal brand? These two tweets sort of illustrate how it's not just about being employable, not just about being an entrepreneur. It's for anyone, either whether you're trying to get employed or whether you're trying to find clients or find customers, having a personal brand is a great place to start for you. Quickly read through them. Okay, so here's a few benefits of having a personal brand. So what the whole point of this presentation, reclaiming your personal brand, taking back control of the narrative that's around your name, around what you do, and putting things out there to say, no, this is me. It says empowering others, but I actually think I should say empowering yourself and others. So it's really, you find it empowering to share your own story. And by sharing your own story, you can then empower others who may be more comfortable to then share theirs or ask questions, learn more. Focus on what's important to you. So by taking the time to think about your values and set yourself personal goals, you can then make more informed decisions and more informed actions that all tie into these goals. And by doing that, you build a more well-rounded personal brand in general. Increase credibility. So similar to what we were saying about the tweets, it's not just about whether you're looking to find an employer or you're looking to find clients or you're looking to find customers. This is for everyone. You can increase your credibility online by sharing your expertise. Networking. So actually 1 in 4 people actually don't network. I think by being here today, we kind of have the assumption that everyone here has done some kind of networking, because we've heard about this brand, this webinar and what's going on, and Inside Out Support Wales and a whole campaign that they are running. So networking is really powerful for meeting new people, finding new opportunities, opening doors, whether it doesn't always happen straight away, but connections you make early on can then reward you later on. And advancing your career, and I also think this should specify in your personal life as well, whatever that looks like to you, that's for yourself to dictate and not for anybody else to preach to you. So I'll just talk about a few tools that you can use for your channel. These would be different things that you can use physically to prepare your social media channels. Go forward. So Canva is fantastic for using multiple templates. I think there's really, obviously 30 million people around the world use it, so it's very widely used, very popular alternative, free alternative to things like Adobe Suite. It's obviously not as powerful as some paid platforms, but you can have billions of different templates for presentations, posters, logos, flyers, business cards. You can create t-shirts on there now. You can do all sorts with the templates that they provide for you. And most importantly, in my opinion, for social media channels, you can resize the content. So if you want a square post for Instagram, you can then copy and paste that into something that fits for Twitter, something that fits for Facebook, something that fits for your Instagram story, and optimize the size for the channel. Next, we have InShot. So this really very simple video editor that's actually really powerful and, of course, free. So it's great for all abilities. You can chop up your videos, create whether it's 10 seconds or 10 minutes or an hour long. You can create your content on here and download it and stick it up wherever it needs to go. Again, it has different canvas sizes for different channels. So your stories, your posts, whatever it is you need to use it for. Bear in mind, YouTube sizing might be different from your Instagram TV sizing. Whatever works for you. So you can use music, transition, filters. It's pretty good, a good starting point for video editing. And the final tool, just to highlight one example of a scheduler, is Hootsuite. So you can use this to schedule your tweets or your posts or whatever it is you want to schedule. So this way you can get on with your life. So if you want to plan lots of bulk content on one day and you schedule it throughout the rest of the week or the rest of the month or whatever works for you, this will allow you to do that. There are free versions. I know Hootsuite's just put its pricing up, so a lot of people aren't very happy and they're trying to find different alternatives. Loomly is a good free alternative. Buffer's a good free alternative. There is a free version of Hootsuite, which is fine if you have, say, I think maybe up to 5 channels, which should be fine for your personal brand. But if you're looking to manage business accounts as well, then you might need to look at a different scheduler. And just some simple do's and don'ts for social media. This coming to the end of this now. So if you do have a separate business that you're trying to run, it's important to run a separate business page. On channels such as Facebook and Instagram, by having a separate page, you can capitalize on the tools that they provide and look at the metrics, which really ties into setting goals. So think about where you want to be and how you're going to get there. So if your goal, for example, might be to increase more sales, then the metric you want to look at would be to gain more website clicks. If you want to increase your network, then the metric you might look at is engagement. How many people are commenting? How many people are creating conversations from what you have posted? And if you want to increase awareness about what you're doing, your metric would be impressions, for example. It's important to really narrow down on what it is you're trying to achieve. If you want to achieve awareness or action, what action are you looking for people to take from your posts? Explore different platforms. Don't be scared to try different things. I think it depends on who you're trying to target and who you want to build connections with. But the more different, I'm not saying spread yourself too thinly across platforms. You don't want to do things you can't keep up with, or you don't need to be on every platform if you don't want to. But what is important is to have multiple touch points. I think it takes maybe 5 to 7 touch points for someone to remember a person or a brand. So the more variety of touch points you have, the more likely someone is to remember you and come to you when they have a question about social media. I like to think that someone will come to me because they've seen my tweets and they've seen me on Instagram and all the rest. Experiment with your post. Don't be scared to try things, post different things, and try different graphics, different images. You can use text-rich content, so you might post an image with a big paragraph of text, or you might post an image that's text-rich in itself, making sure you're using alt text for people who use screen readers. A variety of topics, you can keep them on rotation, and different types of hashtags, and really experimenting with what works for you. And network. So building genuine connections. I think that's the most powerful part of social media, in my opinion. You can meet people from all over the world, so don't be scared to put yourself out there and network with other people. And the 3 main points of social media is educate, entertain, and inspire. Every post should achieve at least one of these things. So before you schedule something, or before you post something, before you schedule or post something, think about which one of these are you trying to achieve, and is it doing that thing? If it doesn't tie into one of these, then you might want to think, how can I turn this into something that's educational? How can I turn this into something that's entertaining? How can I turn it into something that's inspiring? And lastly, be authentic, for your own value more than anything, as well as the way that other people will perceive you. You won't be able to keep up some false bravado thing forever. So be authentic, make it last a long time, and be something that you can carry on doing, over the course of your career. And just one quick note, because I don't want to be too negative, is don't compare yourself to others. If you become obsessed with what others think and compare yourself to other people's standards, there's just no winning in social media. It can, and it does have the power to be a toxic place when you start comparing yourself to others. By doing so, it damages mainly yourself. So that's something that you should avoid. Your story is yours, it's unique, it's your journey. Don't try and compare that to how other people are posting, what other people look like, because they also have other things going on behind closed doors that not everybody shares. So just to finish off, sort of round that up quite nicely, this is my favorite quote. Even when it's not pretty or perfect, even when it's more real than you want it to be, your story is what you have, what you will always have, and it is something to own. This is actually Michelle Obama, who is a huge icon for me. I love her book, if you haven't read that. It's a brilliant book, and I think that summarizes quite nicely about how you can share your personal brand online to empower yourself and empower others. So,
that's great. Thanks, Molly. I think Molly's
put together. If you do have any questions or you want to connect with me, you can send me an email, or if you scan this on your phone right now using your camera, you can add me on LinkedIn. But with that being said, I'll hand back to Jamie.
That's great. Thank you very much, Molly. That's really useful. And I think what you said then about educate, entertain, and inspire. That's certainly something that is really important in terms of how we try to work inside Out Support Wales. And that's why we wanted to work with you, because you inspire us as well, and you inspire other people as well, Molly, with your journey. So thank you for your honesty.
Thank you, Jamie.
And thank you for your flattery on my social media posts. They're not always that entertaining, but I try my best.
Oh, they're wonderful, don't they?
Thank you very much. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about sort of my perspective in terms of things. So I'm going to share with you my screen, and I will just get this up if I can. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things that Molly touched on upon there, which I think have got particular resonance in terms of supporting people with convictions, as we do in Inside Out Support Wales, who want to go into employment, self-employment and education. Mainly those latter two is where we tend to operate. And what I've seen really with sort of reclaiming your personal brand, and that was Molly's phrase that she came up with it, and I really like it, because I think it really does suggest that aspect of taking back control. And it all comes from that starting point that employers will look for candidates online, and if the only thing that there is online about you is a previous conviction, people are immediately going to jump to assumptions and think that that is who you are. But that is just one incident in your life. You know, you will be someone's son, you'll be someone's daughter, you could be a mother, a father, you know, you may have been a sports performer, you're someone's friend, but none of that will be represented in a negative post which is online. And what I've seen with some individuals that we've tried to support is that because they know that's there, it's easier for them just to either ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist, or think that there's nothing that they can do about it. And actually I argue that there is something that you can do about it. If that's the only post that there is about you, how can you reclaim social media and the internet particularly with more positive stories about yourself? So I'm coming at it from a different angle, but it's certainly got a lot of resonance of what Molly has talked about on there. So the reason why I think it's important is this quote from my colleague Chris in Inside Out Support Wales. And this was a quote that Chris gave me 6 months ago when we were planning some workshops. He said to me, "The mindset you had pre-release, getting back on your feet, working, making a change, it's important that you focus on the end goal, the prize. The new life you envisaged whilst you were inside your cell, dreaming of a better life, that life is most definitely still within reach." Now I think that's really important, because the second word there is about mindset. Now I've done a little bit of work with people in prison, and what's interesting when you measure people's mindset, this is only sort of back of the fag packet math, but when we did a bit of work measuring male prisoners in HMP Berwyn, and also we did some at Park and Prescoed in South Wales, when we measured people's mindsets, there were high numbers of individuals that we were meeting that had a growth mindset. So as you can see from Chris's statement there, he's implying that people have that growth mindset when they're in the cell. What am I going to do when I get released? So it's all about keeping hold of that growth mindset, and when you're released, of launching yourself on that journey. There will be plenty of things that will try and knock you back into a closed mindset, but it's really important that you maintain that growth mindset, because with growth mindset, one of the common features of a growth mindset is the ability to turn a negative into a positive, is to look at feedback, even negative feedback, as an opportunity for personal growth. So that's why I like to put that phrase out there, because I think that it's a really useful starting point in terms of reclaiming your personal brand, as Molly says. So there are 4 main ways that you can look at social media, particularly in terms of reclaiming that personal brand, and you can put stuff online there. So I'm a big advocate for engaging with social media when you come out, for posting inspirational stories that resonate with your journey. And I'm going to come back to that aspect of using social media proactively at the end of these. But I'm going to give you 4 sort of themes around the 4 main areas of social media that people tend to use. So the first one that is quite popular is Twitter. Now, I think Molly mentioned about being positive and engaging and inspiring and educating on Twitter. Twitter is also used as a place for calling people out, for arguing. There's a lot of cyberbullying goes on that side of things. As much as you can, I would argue, don't start trash talking on Twitter. There's a couple of reasons obviously for that. First of all, you leave a digital footprint, but also it's just a negative space. You're never going to win. You're never going to win. There's a reason why debates, whether it's Question Time, have some sort of left-leaning politician and then someone from UKIP or whatever. They want clashes, they want arguments to form, and social media is no different. So don't get involved in trash talking on Twitter. You do have the option on Twitter to make your tweets private, or you can make them public. But even if they're private, people could still take a screenshot and share them if you're saying something which is, if you're saying something which can come back to sort of, bite you at a future date. And just think about, Molly's a sports performer. Think about the England cricket team at the moment, the England Wales cricket team. They're having to deal with the ramifications of someone's negative historic tweets from God knows how many years ago, and that person's just been removed from the England cricket team. So even many years, those tweets can come back and bite you. So my option is, I always think, is to be public. So you've almost got like a public conscience there. So you're more likely to post stuff that is positive. Remember, don't post anything that your boss, your clients, your co-workers, or especially your mum wouldn't want to hear. I always put that in there because my mum would definitely call me out. So I think that it sounds a little bit flippant, but think about it. What would my mum say about this? What would they say? Mums are a pretty good barometer. And if not, think about your gran. What would your gran think? So think about it in that way. If you want to build your public profile and you want to build your personal brand, and Molly's given some great pointers there, public profiles are more effective because they can be shared. People will follow you a great deal more. That can be really important. Your personal brand, especially if you are posting personal stories of your own personal growth, of how you are no longer the person from 5 or 6 years ago when your conviction was. Look at all the education, look at the work, look at the volunteering, look at what you've done now. That's much more appealing. So I think, remember to, if you can, make your profiles public and post positive messages. Another thing there, remember to deactivate old accounts too. How do you know that your, an employer might by accident stumble on an old account? So if you've got old accounts and you're not using them, deactivate them. You should try and do that. So Facebook is the next one. Very common. I've recently rejoined Facebook. I've actually been doing some social media training, the same as Molly, although Molly's way ahead of me. I'm just sort of doing an introduction to social media. So I re-engage with Facebook as well. But Facebook is a really interesting one because it's changed in the, what would it be, probably 5 or 6 years since I came off it. You've now got Facebook jobs. So that's another area where you can start to look for work. So if you can apply through the click of a button, it's important to make sure that your Facebook profile is suitable. So fill out that work and education section there. Think about some of the notable achievements to your life events. I think that's particularly important. One of the things that I mentioned yesterday in the which one was it? It was a webinar that I talked about supporting people with conviction, and I mentioned about CVs. On a CV, you've always got a little personal profile, 2 or 3 sentences that you talk about yourself. There's no harm in putting in that personal profile that you're a person who's overcome significant, personal difficulty, because that is it's a kind of a euphemistic way of saying that you've been in prison. But what it means there is that you've faced dark times, but you haven't let that define you. To an employer, it shows that you've got resilience skills, that you're not going to give up the first time, that if it's a hard day. So that's particularly important. If you are applying for work through Facebook jobs, employers will look at your profile to gauge whether you'd be a suitable fit for your company. So you want to tailor it accordingly. So you want to make it all appropriate and suitable. Use that barometer as well of what if you've got photos on there, historic photos of falling out of taxis at 2 o'clock in the morning when we could go out at 2 o'clock in the morning, or sort of party photos. Is that the sort of thing that you want your potential employer to see? If not, think about deleting them, because no one's going to be looking at them anyway, apart from someone who's really looking for something to try and find something bad. So do consider deleting them. And the third one, and probably the most commonplace, and a common thing with what Molly talked about, was networking. LinkedIn is the place online for professional networking. I work freelance for a lot of my work. Now, I wouldn't get any work at all if I didn't engage with LinkedIn. It's a great place for networking. You can build connections like crazy. It's very rare that people will not add you as a connection on LinkedIn. Sometimes there might be a nefarious reason, but most of the time people will connect you. It's also the place for showcasing your personal employability brand. This is me, these are my skills, these are my qualifications, this is my experience, this is why you should hire me. 93% of recruiters use LinkedIn to research and recruit candidates. I've got family that work in recruitment internationally. They use that all the time. So it's important to really build your personal employability brand on LinkedIn. You can also use it for tons of other stuff as well. And when I do work for the charity School of Hard Knocks, a lot of people don't think about LinkedIn because they don't really realise it. They don't really understand its capacity. So you can use it to research companies. You can use it to connect with recruiters, and you can use it to connect with hiring managers. And an example of that is my time working as a freelancer for School of Hard Knocks. I knew they were a small charity. I applied to do some freelance work with them, and I was invited to interview. Now, as Molly said, I do a lot of work in terms of building up my own personal brand because of the work that I do. And also, I'm aware that sometimes working with people who've been in prison is perceived by some people as a negative career choice. I disagree with them. I can't do anything about their choice. They can just go over there and fester, and I'll carry on my merry way. So I was aware that because I built up my sort of LinkedIn profile and Twitter, etc., I wanted them to see me. So I researched School of Hard Knocks online. I found every person who worked for School of Hard Knocks. I add them as a connection, knowing that they would check out my profile as well, which gave me potentially an extra edge over the other people that were interviewed. So when then it came to the interview, they were asking me questions that were no longer really about anything that was on the application form or anything I'd said in the interview. It was stuff that they'd found out from having a look at my online profile, and I got the job as well. So I think you can use it really, really effectively. Obviously, that's easier if the organisation you're applying for work for is smaller than it is, if you're going for work with GlaxoSmithKline Beecham or the NHS. That's a whole different kettle of fish. But you can definitely connect up with people there. One of the good things that LinkedIn has is that it almost works as like a living, breathing CV. So you can put recommendations on there. So that's a reference, basically, to a potential employer. They'll see that you've been endorsed by such and such. They'll check out that person, see what they're about, and think, yeah, okay, that's good. It's also a great source for jobs. So at any one time, there's 22,000 jobs advertised in the UK, and that's constantly changing all the time. You can set up alerts for daily or weekly vacancies according to a job title, a company, or a location. It's quite good. And I read that apparently there are a lot of jobs that are advertised on LinkedIn that aren't advertised elsewhere. So it's definitely worthwhile engaging with it. There's also Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. So you can, if you have got a particular passion for a field, start to join those groups, because you'll be able to network with things. And there's loads of stuff happening now which is online. So every day I'm getting an invitation for another Eventbrite free virtual meeting. Join those meetings, make those connections. Take screenshots, put them on LinkedIn, definitely. Post those inspiring and positive comments. You can also use those networks as well then, to ask for, potential vacancies. Maybe there are specialist recruitment companies you can reach out to them as well. So yeah, joining those LinkedIn groups, it's great. You can get all kinds of sort of free advice, free virtual training as well at the moment, and increase your professional awareness. Also, you've got things like Instagram. Now, Instagram obviously is used by artists particularly, or people like maybe photographers who have got a very visual medium to their work, web designers, social media managers as well, such as Molly. You can also use it potentially to build your own personal brand. So if you are doing that, make sure that you make your Instagram profile public again, make consistent with your other social media profiles. So, you know, whether it's the same suffix. So I try and use @JamieGrundyNet for a lot of my profiles. I know Molly uses @Molzog. So making it consistent so it's not hard for people to find you. If you're not using it for your business per se, so if you're not a photographer and you're selling pictures, but you want to use it for your career search, you can still use Instagram for that. You can post like career focused photos such as conference photos. Okay, we're all doing virtual conference photos. Take screenshots, post those. Use Canva, as Molly said, to get a nice edited image from your screenshots to post online with your Instagram. People will notice that, and you'll increase your followers. You know, if you've got a website, stick that online, talk about that. If you're doing a bit of branding, talk about that on there, or brands that inspire you, you can put those on there. That's great. Find and follow similar companies to yourself, learn from what they're doing. I've done a lot of work in community development, and we always used to say that there's no original work in community development, because if you're looking for a solution to a problem, you just got to try and find how someone else overcame it and learn from that. And in a way, that's a similar approach here. You know, if you are building your own personal brand, look for other people who've got a similar brand as yourself, or have gone on a similar personal journey, learn how they did it, use their experience as a template. Why not? You can follow popular job search hashtags. So quite often, I just put the first 5 up there: remote work, remote jobs, job search, and job search tips. Plenty of people use hashtags on Instagram. I do that for a few things. So if you're putting posts up there, I think Instagram allows you to put up to a maximum of 20 hashtags. I asked a previous social media manager how I should use hashtags, and he told me at the time, go hashtag crazy. So I often do. You can also tag, I think it's up to 20 people on a post as well. So, you know, use those connections. They'll share, they'll follow you, they'll engage with you. So it's important that you do that. If you've got a job search and you think it's a unique job search, there's a potential there to use things like Instagram stories and Instagram TV to talk about your job search particularly. Why not? There will be people out there that are interested, especially as you start to build your brand. They'll get an interest in you, which I think is quite important there. So let me just get my screen up. There we go. Okay. So one of the things I think it's important to do, if you are someone who's got lived experience of the criminal justice system, you've been inside, and you are taking those steps into life in the community, and you've decided to use social media because you want to populate the internet and social media with positive stories about your journey, I think that's very, very good and very, very laudable, and I think it's excellent. But don't go into it blindly. Set your own boundaries. If you're going to use your own personal story, set your boundaries. Think about it this way, and I've seen this from personal experience. Your rehabilitation journey can be fantastically appealing for an employer. Why? Well, it just shows immediately what an inclusive employer you are, that they are. You know, look at what we're doing. What's the impact? Well, look, we've taken on this person. This is our token ex-offender. Okay, they'd love to do that sort of thing. It hits all their corporate social responsibility targets, which is important if they are a member of a charity like Business in the Community. They've got to hit those targets as part of that membership. They'll show that they're an inclusive employer, and they may even resonate with the personal lives of senior managers or interviewers. I've met plenty of people in various senior positions who maybe don't have lived experience of the criminal justice system themselves, but a family member does. So they know exactly what you're going through because, you know, a brother, a sister, a father, a mother, a child has gone through a similar circumstance. If you are going to use your journey, or your story is being used by, for example, an employer, make sure you understand what's involved. If you're giving that aspect of yourself, Don't go into it blindly. Don't just think, yeah, they can use my story and I get a job out of it. Okay, that's a deal that you're setting yourself. But what might happen in, 2, 4, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, is that how you want to be defined previously? And I think about it in this way. They may well put your story out there in terms of annual reports or on the company's website to show what an inclusive employer they are. If you're okay with that, fine. If not, well, maybe ask them, could they not use your image, and could they use a pseudonym? Okay, so if they could use a different name, hopefully they would agree to that, because it is, after all, your story. So I think that's the opportunity there. But like I say there, do it on your terms. Think about the sacrifice and think about the risk and the rewards. Is it worth the return? If you're happy with that, that's fine. But I would say definitely set a time limit. I've known a few people who have come out of prison and they are appearing all over every conference that I've seen as a speaker, blog posts, people's websites. That's fine. But I've also known people who've set a time limit. So they said, okay, I'm going to do this for 2 years while I'm in this period of my life. And then after that, I'm moving on into something else. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think it's a really, really good thing to do. Because, your identity might change. You might change from ex-offender to work colleague, to girlfriend, to boyfriend, to husband, to father, to mother. Your label changes through your life, so don't always be using the term ex-offender to think of your journey forever and ever and ever, unless you're comfortable with that, But I think there's an opportunity then to think about the time limit that you're setting yourself. So I've got a couple of examples of how not to be bad on social media. So I've just put 4 examples on there. So these are 4 examples. I could have put loads out there. So Erwin James on Twitter. Erwin James is the editor of Inside Time, which is the newspaper which is distributed, a free newspaper distributed in prisons. So if you're in prisons, you can get this, where you can subscribe to it like I do. Erwin James is a former prisoner himself, and he talks about that experience, and he's now the editor of a newspaper which is read all over England and Wales. Facebook is really good. If you look at someone like LJ Flanders and Cell Workout. Cell Workout was in an exercise program written by LJ when he was inside as a former prisoner, and when he came out, with the help of the Prince's Trust and a few other super supportive partners, he launched Cell Workout. So it's an exercise book that you can do in a cell or in a small space, and he's in and out of prisons all the time, training people and showing how they can use exercise as part of their plan for when they get released, as a personal trainer and what have you. Very popular. He's now discovered. Not only was his book very popular during lockdown, as you can imagine, we're all at home trying to exercise in the front room, also very popular with submariners. He's started to receive letters now from the Royal Navy, from people who are in submarines, because they're down underwater for sort of months at a time, and they wanted to find a way that they could keep fit. So there we are. If you look at LinkedIn, Chris, who's one of my colleagues with Inside Out Support Wales, that's his profile. Look up Chris. You'll see he's really good in terms of posting a lot of inspirational posts there about how he's using his brand going forward, and how he's working with social media and working with Inside Out Support Wales going forward as well. So I think that's important. Okay. Bear with me a sec. Right, let's see. Brilliant. Thanks for knocking off the audio then. That's good. So, okay. Finally, I'd say have a look at Robert Kasanga and Hackney Wick FC. Bobby Kasanga's great. He posts loads of really exciting, interactive stuff on Instagram. He's the founder of Hackney Wick FC. He is a former gang member in London, missed the birth of his second daughter while he was in prison. And when he came out, he realised that the life that he had left when he went into prison was still there waiting for him when he came out. And if it was waiting for him, it was going to be waiting for a load of other men particularly. So he set up Hackney Wick FC as a way to use sport to engage with individuals and to get them into more proactive and positive behaviours. Hackney Wick FC is great now. I think they've gone up the Football League pyramid. I think he's the only black football chairman in the Football League pyramid system. He was posting stuff recently how he took Hackney Wick FC to play in a charity match up at Old Trafford. So he posts loads of really interesting stuff on there, so definitely worth a follow, I'd say. And finally, when you do engage with social media, you're going to get negative press. You'll get negative publicity from trolls online. All they're looking for is a reaction. They're looking for anybody. They're not looking for you personally. They're just looking for anybody. So my biggest lesson about this is don't bite back to those trolls. If you get people who see you, for example, if you're labelling yourself as someone who's come out of prison, but this is my rehabilitation journey, you will get people who just think whatever your conviction was for, that the key should have been thrown away and should have been locked away forever. They'll say that to anybody. They've got no interest in who you are as a person, and they've got no interest in your journey going forward. Block them. Don't interact with them. If they're saying something which is hateful, report them to the social media provider, and there's buttons on each of those platforms of how you can do that. Move on, and the less you interact with those individuals, the quieter their voices become, and eventually you won't hear them. You know, I've had quite a bit of sort of abuse myself by trolls from some of the posts that I've done. Don't get it all the time. Occasionally it comes up and I get it. I just block it and move on with my day, and enjoy my Thursday or my Friday accordingly. So that's my biggest lesson, I would say, is try not to bite back. Okay, that's the end of my little session there. So thank you very much. If anyone has got any questions, or you want to pop stuff in the chat, that would be great. If you want to ask a question, I think you can put like a little hand up like this. You're going to put a little hand up to ask a question, and then you can put it down after. So yeah, anyone's got any questions, be more than happy to take them, myself and Molly. Let's see what we've got. Let's have a look in the chat. So there we go. There we are. Thanks, Joanna. Yeah, your mum would probably agree with you. Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, I've got my mum's really good at you know, telling me when I'm doing something wrong. She's quite critical. I better not say that because she might be listening somewhere. But yeah, remember to you know, use that barometer. You know, I set myself. I spend a lot of time on one of these during the day, as I'm sure Molly does. And when I'm done for the day, I switch it off. I watch some nice telly in the evening. I don't watch the news in the evening because I want to have a nice sleep. But there we go. Yeah. So there we are. So any more questions? Thank you, Mark. Yeah, that was good. Molly's put some really good pointers in there. I'll just mention as well that when we upload all our videos online, then we will be putting some of the links up on there as well. That we want to, when you put the clips up onto YouTube, we'll send you all the details. We'll put some of the clips up there, and I'm sure Molly will send me some links across for things like Canva and Hootsuite and the photo editing one that she mentioned as well. So there we go. So any more questions? Okay. That's okay. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, we shall let you sign off. We shall let Molly get on with her Thursday, and let you guys get on with your day as well. Just a quick plug as well for the rest of our webinars. This week we have got we've got Why and Play Ex-Offenders. That's on Webinar Jam today at 1 o'clock. And then tomorrow morning we've got a final one, which is Effective Disclosure, which again is on Teams. That's again the same time as this one. We send emails out to everybody each day in case they want to rejoin. But if there's anything that takes your particular fancy, then please, as I shall put now into the chat, he says quickly cut and pasting. that is the link for all the webinars if you want to just sign up for any of those, and we'll look forward to seeing you online. But like I say, we're going to be putting all of these up on YouTube hopefully next week. So thank you very much.
Lovely. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Molly. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, no, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye,
for
everyone.
listening.
Goodbye. Bye now.
Bye.